Hi guys, thank you so much for tuning back into my channel. Today I'm going to do some lock trimming. There are some locks that have thinned in some part of the shaft of my locks, and I'm going to just show you guys how I trim them, and we can just talk and see if you guys have had problems like this and how you handle it, whether you leave it to hang on and fall off by itself, or whether you just trim it once you see that it's actually starting to thin, which is what I do, because once it's thinning, girl, it's just let it go, can't hold it anymore. So actually there was one, I don't remember exactly where it was, that was actually thinning, and I have been meaning to make this video for like the last month, but I haven't gotten around to it. But I think after that month, that lock literally was hanging by like 2 strands. So last week I just cut it off, and so this is like how much lock that I lost. And I think it was like something in the middle here. Hold on, I'm just gonna find it. It was this one. Yes, it was this lock right here. So basically this lock here was like this much, and that basically was gone, was thinning, and so I just cut it last week. But there are 2 more on this side, 2 or 3 I think on this side, and maybe 1 or 2 on this side that also need to be trimmed, and so we're gonna do that today. For example, you see this one right here. I know, what a precious lock. It was so long, and now I've lost like basically 50% of the length of it. This one actually kind of made me a little sad. Let me come closer so you guys can see kind of like the stages. So basically, this was a nice cute lock before, and then little pieces started to come out, and then that basically ends up forming this like this jungle of hair that you can see here now, that has basically separated like all the way. So yeah, that's kind of what it is. So we're going to trim this off because there is no point holding on to dead locks. So just gonna go through in and cut it off, and that's that. So this is, I think, the longest lock I've ever had to like cut off before. Like this is like a whole this was like my hair at like 1 year old. Oh my god. But yeah, now that one is kind of like by itself now, and I think there's one right next to it also that needs to go. Let me find that one. Yes, I think it's this one. I think it's this one. This one also is making me really sad. I don't know if I should leave it. I need to just cut it. There is no point. So this is also like a pretty long one as well. I mean, wraps around my whole face, but I think it needs to go because right here I can feel that it's thin right here. Like it's like normal, thin, and normal. And so you can kind of see too, like when you hold the lock, like it just kind of falls on that like part right here. Let me see if I can get closer so you guys can see. It's like this part right here is thin. It's just like there's kind of nothing, whereas here it's like thick, here it's thick, and then here it's just like limp. So I'm also just going to chop that off as well. I know this one is kind of sad because like literally this is half of the lock that I'm gonna cut off, but it gots to go, girl. It gots to go. So I'm just gonna go in the middle right there and just cut it off. Wow, this is a lot. So I guess this is really how you would lose a length if you have color in your locks. Like none of my locks have ever just like fallen out of my head before or anything. Like I woke up and like there's a piece of lock on your bed or something. I've never had that happen to me. I think what eventually happens is like, you know, your locks thin out like this, and then you're too scared to like, you know, cut it off or something, and then it starts hanging by a thread. And then I mean, if it's hanging by a thread, obviously it's just going to detach at some point, and that's how your locks will fall out, I feel. But who knows? Prove me wrong. If your locks have just disappeared from your head, let me know the story of how it just, I guess, detached itself. But I feel like it's because it starts to thin, and then it just like eventually is hanging by such a very small string that it just pops off by itself, basically. So I do this because I don't want that to happen, and also I don't like having locks that are just like hanging. It's like kind of useless. It's like I don't see the point, you know. If it's already, if it's out the door, it's out the door. Just sign now right out, you know, just let it, give it a farewell, make a little video, release it out, and just let it be. So yeah, I also wanted to show you guys. Now, this is a lot of lock to cut off, okay? I have to say I'm a little sad about this one. But if you don't want, like, you know, to just lose your length completely, I'm trying to find the lock again. I think, hold on, let me find that lock that we just cut off. Is it this one? I think this was the first one we cut, right? So let's say you want to like reattach this lock, because I wouldn't recommend using the crochet needle to reattach this lock, because this is a pretty thin lock, like just in terms of like the way the lock formed and the way I parted it initially. It's not a thick lock, as opposed to like when I was reattaching it to the back of my hair, that was thick, loose hair, and you were able to actually go in there and crochet. I think the two methods I would suggest is either just cut it off and leave it, or you can sew it back to each other, like you can wrap it around and just kind of like sew like an inch back to each other. Or you can also do another method where you can just like braid it, braid this back to this hair. So what we're gonna do is find this lock. Okay, so this is the one that I cut this one off of, and basically I think this works the best on people with like sister locks or thinner, smaller parted locks. I'm trying to get this to focus. Oh my god. So you can see, because like this is kind of loose here, and I think if this was blunt it would be harder to do. This is also a little like tapered, because like it's thick and then it's like thin, so that kind of helps you to like braid it together. So what you want to do is take this lock that you cut off and just put it behind. So you have your lock and then you have the lock itself, so you want to just put it behind it like that, and now you have 3 strands, and then you just want to braid it. And you just braid that into it. And when you get to like this 2 part, you almost want to do like a 2-strand twist and like just kind of like twist it together. Lord Jesus, this is so hard to focus for you guys, but you just want to twist this together and then wrap it around the lock, basically. Kind of like as a 2-strand twist, and you just wrap that around. And obviously you're gonna have a bump in that area where you like braided it, because obviously there's like 3 strands there. So here's like lock, this is where we attached, this is where the attachment finished, like the braid finished, and this is like the rest of the lock. So now I gained like a little bit of more length, right? Just gonna palm roll that in. And there you go. So obviously you will have the bump, like I said, but if you're dead set on preserving that lock, this is the way to go, right? And I think the second one is here. This is the second one I cut off. And so here you have this lock. I'm just gonna repeat the same thing. So you wanna go back to like, this is where we cut off. This is the end of the lock. You don't wanna use here because this is thicker. You wanna use the part that's actually thinner. So you wanna just take that lock and take this and put it behind it, so you have 3 strands, and then you just want to braid. And when you get to the end, when there's only 2 left, you just want to like kind of just roll the 2 against each other, and then just like wrap it around the lock itself, like so, and just wrap it until there's like nothing left to wrap. And then we're gonna palm roll. And there is your reattached lock. So that's a way, you know, if you're not ready to part with your locks and you're like, listen, I know I have to cut it off, but I'm not ready. I'm just not ready to let go. You can braid it back on there. Now, I don't know whether this is gonna last through like styling, through washing, through anything we do with our locks. I have no idea. This is my first time doing it, so I will have to see because I wash my hair weekly, so if it lasts through that, then we're good. But I think the idea here is that, you know, these are braid locks after all, so if you braid another lock into another lock, it should eventually like morph into locks, right? Just like mine have. So we'll see how that goes. yeah, so that's kind of like the update. I don't know what it is. Well, I mean, I'm sure the coloring is obviously a big factor in this, but I never have these things happen to locks, like basically in like the back part of my hair. It's only in like these perimeter locks and like this front perimeter side of my locks, which I think are like, I parted those a lot smaller when I was starting my locks. So I guess like that could be kind of something that you guys want to think about. But then I remember specifically, even if I was going to do this again, I probably would still part them the same, because I don't want to have super thick locks, because they just become heavy, you know, after a while. So I don't know, it's like a catch-22, I guess. But either way, this is what I do when I see that locks are thinning. Most times I don't find them like just when I'm out and about. I find them when I'm like washing my hair, because when I apply conditioner like in the shower, I flip my hair backwards and I literally just like run my hand through all my locks and I like examine each one to like feel and see if there's a spot of thinning. Because sometimes like when the hair is dry, because it poofs up like in that area when it starts to thin, you won't really be able to know that that lock is actually thinning. Whereas when it's wet and you're like feeling it, obviously you're gonna be able to see like right through, like, okay, this part right here has a weak spot. And then obviously it's up to you to decide what you want to do with it. I recommend you just cut it off, because it will not stop like detaching itself, right? That's the one thing that sucks about like having locks. Like you can't really repair a broken lock. Once it's broken, it's just gonna keep breaking, or you're just gonna, you know, shorten the process and just cut it off yourself, right? So I recommend just let it, you know, detach. And if you want to reattach it like I did just now, you can, or you can just leave it and it'll grow back. It's hair after all, right? But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.